Let's continue our cruise on this small ship, the Wilderness Discoverer. It is a real nice ship that's small enough to go into small places like Wrangell. It was early in the morning when we pulled in to Wrangell, and it was quite obvious to me that because of the large differences in high and low tide, it was important to have long bow lines and stern lines for the mooring. The mate here is juggling the ship so that then the center could be tied with a mooring line to allow the gangplank to come onto the solid dock for discharging the passengers. We had signed up to take this tour to the Anan Bear Observatory. It was done by means of this small boat which went 23 miles in 45 minutes, roughly 35 miles an hour. We were on the inside, but there are always these diehards that want to be sit in the back in the wild wind to get their hair blown straight. It was a simple beach landing, and the idea here is that we had to walk about half a mile or so. This ranger here came with us, and all of a sudden we noticed a black bear to the left of this little cabin that is over here also. From there we continued on the trail, saw a eagle, and this little outlet of the creek, the Anan Creek, also includes a small waterfall. Then it went on to where this inlet also showed more birds. The trail through the forest was on a real nice planked wooden pathway, and as we went along, all of a sudden Sharon noticed this bird sitting on the railing. It was a youngster, a bald eagle that was just about 5 or 8 feet away from us. Then it was bear time. The actual observation platform and deck are above this waterfall, but there's also this blind that goes down to where you can watch these bears catching salmon within 8 feet of us. It was amazing. As I climbed up from the blind, I was met by this bear looking straight at me. But then later on, it turned out that when Sharon had to go to the outhouse, another one followed her right behind her. Luckily nothing happened, of course, but we had a great view of the salmon that made it across the way. Back to the ship. This was also a good place to have lunch, and we decided this time to have it on the sun deck, which is where many times in the evening we had little gatherings of people that just have cocktails up there, as long as the weather was nice. Whales off at about 2 o'clock, and sure enough there was at least one whale that was showing off its white fins, and even its tail came out of the water, identifying who it was. All of a sudden we saw this fishing boat sitting on the bank. It was obviously stranded, and as it turned out, the sailor was an older man who had to be helped off, and all of a sudden we were surrounded by several fishing boats. Like, you know, we were not away that far from civilization. Overnight we had arrived at Misty Fjord, and we pulled into a side bay called Punch Bowl Bay, or Inlet. From there we took a skiff ride with Max, who took us quite a ways into the inlet, in fact all the way to the end. And then all of a sudden we encountered this group of the ship's crew. The scenery here was very beautiful, including some waterfalls, and toward the end of the bay we encountered a flock of eagles. All of a sudden there was one sitting in the tree and others were flying around us. There must have been about 6 or 7 of us. A very unique and interesting encounter for this little trip. Our last night was spent going from this bay to Ketchikan, and that is where we had to say goodbye to all our new made friends. The crew is standing along the side waving their goodbyes, but Sharon and I had made some other plans to see part of Ketchikan, go to this creek street which used to be a brothel hangout of the back in the pioneering days, but now was more of a tourist attraction with shops, of course. At the end of the creek was a ladder of small waterfalls for salmon to go up. Then we took a local bus to this place where there are lots of totem poles, and one of the features here is this house, the clan house. You can stop this if you want to read the whole thing, but basically we went inside of this one-room building where the clan of about 50 might be housed at one time or another. It was very interesting to see at least some of the Indian cultures on this part of the trip. As the old saying goes, everything nice has to come to an end sooner or later, and so does this video.